My husband begged me to open our marriage. I said yes, and now I'm planning the perfect divorce he'll never see coming. I've been with my husband since I was 15. We met in high school. He was the quiet guy who always sat at the back of the room, doodling in his notebooks, and I was the girl who laughed too loudly at everything. Somehow it worked. We were each other's first for everything. First kiss, first date, first real love. We went to prom together, graduated together, and got our first apartment together. When I got pregnant at 25 with our daughter, we got married. It felt like the natural next step. We'd grown up together, built our lives around one another, and though we had ups and downs, I really believed we were solid. When our daughter was born, everything shifted. Any parent will tell you that nothing prepares you for the whirlwind of becoming a parent. The sleep deprivation, the stress, the constant worrying, it changed me. It changed us. We weren't just a couple anymore, we were parents. And while I felt that strain on our relationship, I honestly thought we were weathering it as best we could. But then I got pregnant again. Twins. 2 boys. I cried when the nurse told me, half from joy and half from sheer, terrified exhaustion. The next few years were a blur of diapers, daycare, school drop-offs, and balancing our jobs with keeping a household from collapsing. There were nights I'd collapse into bed and barely mumble a good night before passing out, and I know he felt that distance too. We fought. We made up. We went to counseling. I thought that meant we were still fighting for each other. Things slowly improved once all 3 kids were in school. We got help with childcare. Our careers stabilized. We moved into a bigger home. We even started doing monthly date nights again, just the 2 of us, a babysitter at home, a chance to reconnect. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And I really thought we were in a good place. Until he told me we weren't. It started with a few casual comments. He'd bring up couples who traveled the world together before settling down, or people who had crazy stories about their dating lives. Then, during one of our date nights, he asked me if I ever wished we'd met later in life. I said no at first. But over time, I admitted there were things I sometimes thought about what it would have been like to have more freedom in my 20s, to explore, to grow as an individual before settling down. I was being vulnerable. Honest. I thought we were just having one of those deep conversations couples sometimes have after years of comfort. He seized on it. He brought up the idea of opening our marriage. I thought he was joking. I laughed. He wasn't. He said he'd been reading articles, watching TED Talks, hearing stories of couples who found new intimacy and trust through ethical non-monogamy. He talked about how it didn't mean we didn't love each other, how it wasn't cheating if we both agreed, how it could actually make us stronger. I told him I wasn't interested. But he didn't drop it. He brought it up again and again. Sometimes gently. Sometimes during arguments. Sometimes during our dates, like he was trying to normalize it, wear me down. And the truth is, he did. Not because I suddenly wanted to sleep with other people, but because I was exhausted. Because I missed the man who used to look at me like I was enough. Because I wanted to stop feeling like I was failing him just by being who I am. So after nearly a year of these conversations, I said yes. With conditions. I told him we'd record a video. Together. Each of us consenting to opening the marriage. I wanted documentation, something we could look back on and say, yes, we agreed to this. I needed that boundary. I needed something to protect us both in case this blew up in our faces. We did it. We sat down, looked into the camera, and said our piece. We even smiled a little awkwardly, trying to pretend we were doing something grown-up and mature and enlightened. But deep down, I felt sick. I felt like I was giving away something I could never get back. He was excited. That should have been my first red flag. He had a dating profile up within days. He already had people he was talking to. He tried to get me to make a profile too, but I didn't. I told him I needed time. I wanted to focus on us first, to see how this would impact our marriage before inviting someone new into my life. He got annoyed. Said I wasn't really trying. Said it wasn't fair that he was doing the work while I sat back and judged. I reminded him that he was the one who wanted this, not me. That I agreed under pressure, not desire. Things got worse. Our date nights stopped. He spent more time texting women on his phone than talking to me. He'd come home late and not tell me where he'd been. When I asked, he'd accuse me of being jealous or controlling. I felt like a ghost in my own home. Cooking dinners he barely touched, sleeping beside a man who wouldn't even look at me some nights. And the worst part? I still love him. I still see glimpses of the boy I fell for. When he helps our daughter with her homework. When he brushes the twins' hair after their bath. When he plays guitar softly in the garage like he used to in high school. But those moments are fewer and further between now, and every day I feel myself fading further from the version of us that I used to believe in. 2 weeks after that argument, I made my decision. It wasn't a big moment. It wasn't loud or dramatic. There wasn't yelling or throwing things or some huge revelation that changed everything. It was quiet, cold, and final. I had shown him a Reddit post, one of those look what happened to me stories. A woman had agreed to an open relationship with her husband. One night, she went out with her boyfriend, and a family member of her husband saw her. They didn't know it was consensual. They took pictures, confronted her, shamed her, and instead of speaking up to protect her, the husband just stood there, silent, let her take the fall, let his family call her a cheater, let her cry in confusion and guilt while he hid behind his pride. I remember showing it to my husband and asking him, "What if this happens to us?" He laughed, shrugged it off. "That's not going to happen," he said. "We're not like them. No one else needs to be in our relationship." I almost laughed back. The irony of it all. He wanted to bring strangers into our most intimate space, but heaven forbid a family member find out. I told him, firmly, that if we didn't record a video consent of us both agreeing to open the marriage, it wasn't happening. No ambiguity. No future arguments. That was my line. He said I was paranoid. That I didn't trust him. That I was being selfish and unfair and unwilling to compromise. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry when he said those things. I just took note. 2 weeks later, after yet another circular argument that ended with him storming out and slamming the door, I knew I'd crossed the point of no return. He didn't come back that night. He didn't answer my texts. Didn't respond to my calls. I sat in the living room watching the clock tick past midnight, thinking something might have happened. That maybe I should drive around looking for him. He doesn't usually drink more than a couple of beers, but that night I knew he'd had more. As I paced the house, holding my phone, willing it to ring, I heard a faint ping. It came again, soft and familiar. I followed it upstairs and eventually traced the sound to the bottom drawer of his old desk. The iPad. The one he said he was going to give to his sister's stepson. I didn't even realize we still had it. And I definitely didn't realize it was still linked to his phone. It pinged again. I stood there staring at it, heart pounding. I already knew what I was about to do. I could feel the guilt tightening in my chest, the fear of betrayal, of becoming someone I swore I never would. But I opened it. There were messages. Dozens of them. He'd been talking to a woman from work for months. Flirting. Complimenting. Late-night conversations. Inside jokes. Photos. Not sexual, but not innocent either. One message said, "If things were different, maybe we'd already be together." Another said, "You make me feel like I can actually breathe again." And the worst part? There was a string of messages from that night. While I was texting and calling him, worried he might have been in a ditch somewhere, he was with her, laughing about how the old ball and chain was blowing up his phone. She replied with a laughing emoji and said, "Better not let her find out." I closed the iPad. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even wake him up when he came home and stumbled into bed. The next morning, I made breakfast like usual, got the kids ready for school, kissed our daughter on the forehead and told her to have a great day, gave the twins their lunchboxes, and walked them to the bus. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and began looking up divorce lawyers. It hit me then, the cruel irony of it all. I wish I could say I was surprised by what I found. Shocked, maybe, but that would be a lie. What I felt was more like confirmation, cold, bitter, final. It wasn't just work banter or emotionally inappropriate texts. It was straight-up sexting. Spicy messages. NSFW pictures. I'm talking things I never imagined I'd see my husband involved in. Posing shirtless, talking about how badly he wanted her, what he'd do to her if he had the chance, how she made him feel alive again. The worst part? She reciprocated. Flirty messages, explicit comments, and photos where she was trying to hide her face, but forgot about the mirror behind her. Rookie mistake. I saw the tattoo. Back of her shoulder, tiny little butterfly with a name underneath it. I knew who she was. She used to come to our block parties. I had literally handed her a beer before. Let her play with our twins. Let her laugh with my daughter. I had no idea that while she was smiling at my kids, she was trading underwear selfies with my husband on her lunch break. According to their messages, they hadn't gone all the way, as if that somehow made it better. But they'd done other things. Things he used to do with me. Private things. The kind of things I used to think only we shared. They joked about how I'd never know, how he hated lying but had to do what made him happy. Then I found the messages he sent to his cousins and a couple of his friends. And that's what finally broke me. He said my body disgusted him, that he couldn't stand to look at me some days, that ever since I had the twins, I let myself go, that I was too soft now, that my breasts sagged, that they had weird lines from breastfeeding. He called my stretch marks gross, said I was selfish for prioritizing my maternal instincts over my marital duties. He resented me for breastfeeding our children, said I had refused to even consider formula, as if I didn't talk to him for hours, as if I didn't cry in the nursery when he called me stubborn for wanting to nurse our sons like I had our daughter, as if it wasn't his idea to have 3 kids by 30. I felt sick, physically sick. My hands were shaking as I scrolled. I couldn't breathe. My heart was pounding so loud it echoed in my ears, and before I knew it, I was crying hard, loud, ugly. And I guess I wasn't as quiet as I thought I was, because then I heard little footsteps. My son, our youngest twin, peeked out from his bedroom, rubbing his eyes. He looked at me, confused, concerned. "Mommy, are you okay?" I panicked and wiped my face. But he came over anyway and climbed into my lap like he used to when he was smaller. He didn't ask questions. He just curled up next to me and wrapped his little arms around my waist. Eventually, I carried him to my bed, and we fell asleep like that, snuggled up, his tiny body warm against mine, his breath steady and peaceful. When I woke up, it was to the smell of toast. My daughter, sweet girl that she is, had made me breakfast. Toast with jam, a peeled tangerine, cereal in a chipped bowl. She walked into the room holding the tray like it was fine china and said, "I heard you and Dad arguing. You sounded sad. I wanted to make you happy again." I wanted to crumble, not because of the food but because she knew. She heard us. And even though she couldn't fully understand what was happening, she knew something was wrong. And her first instinct was to try to fix it. With toast. With kindness. With love. And my husband? What was his instinct? To lie. To sneak. To betray all of us. For a quick fix and a few compliments from a woman who didn't even know how mirrors worked. I was angry. Not just hurt. Not just sad. Not just betrayed. Furious. How dare he do this to us? How dare he bring this kind of pain, this chaos, this instability into our home, and make it my problem to manage? All because he wanted to get laid without consequences. And in that moment, sitting in bed with a cold piece of toast and a heart broken into pieces, I realized something inside me had snapped. Not violently. Not dramatically. Just finally. Whatever love I had left for him, whatever hope, whatever shred of belief that maybe we could still work this out, it was gone. Just gone. Part of me, a dark part one don't like to admit exists, wished something had happened to him when he was out that night. That he had crashed his car or fallen asleep drunk on a park bench and gotten hurt. That it would have made things cleaner. Simpler. That my kids could have remembered him as a hero, instead of the coward I now saw in front of me. And that thought scared me. It's not who I want to be. It's not who I am. But I think maybe I do need to see a therapist. After I finished the breakfast my daughter had so lovingly prepared and watched the kids run off to play in the living room, I sat down at the dining table with my laptop and a cup of lukewarm tea I never got around to finishing. I opened a new tab and typed divorce attorneys near me. I didn't hesitate. I didn't second-guess myself. I just started reading. Then I searched my state's laws on divorce, custody, and asset division. Everything I should have never needed to know, but now couldn't afford not to. I took notes. I bookmarked pages. I compared lawyer reviews and scribbled down names of firms that specialized in family law. I wasn't scared anymore. I was focused. And that focus kept me steady. He came home that afternoon, looking like a man who had nothing to hide and everything to gain. Still wouldn't tell me where he was the night before, and for the first time in our relationship, I didn't care. Whatever lies he was planning to tell, whatever story he had rehearsed in his head, it didn't matter anymore. He smelled like the cheap beer he liked and stale deodorant as he walked past me without a word and went straight into the shower. As the water started running, I stood in the doorway of the bathroom and calmly said, "You have my permission to open the marriage." No written statement. No video. Do whatever you want. There was a pause. Then the sound of the shower curtain shifting, and his head poked out, dripping wet. His eyes lit up with disbelief, and then something else, relief, maybe. Victory. Wait, really? He asked, grinning like a kid who just got handed a toy he didn't deserve.
Yep.
No strings. No proof needed, I said, smiling thinly. He laughed, practically giddy. That same fake charm came back instantly. The version of him I hadn't seen in years. The affectionate touch on the shoulder, the flirty jokes, the offer to order dinner in or watch one of our favorite shows together later. It made my skin crawl. He promised, very seriously, that he'd never bring anyone home where the kids might see or sense anything. That he'd be careful, always use protection, and be respectful of my comfort. I nodded, said that sounded fine. But inside I was hollow. Nothing he said meant anything anymore. His word was a burned-down house. I'd never live inside it again. Over the next few days, I kept my act up. I went to work, I picked the kids up from school, I smiled and nodded when he showed me his Tinder profile like it was a game he wanted me to cheer him on for. I even helped him pick a photo that didn't make him look like the emotionally bankrupt man he really was. "You look hot in this one," I said flatly, and he beamed. He had no idea. While he was out finding himself, I used my lunch breaks to schedule calls with divorce attorneys. I spoke with 3, 2 women, 1 man, and after the 3rd call, I knew I'd found the one. She was sharp, direct, and didn't flinch when I told her I was going to let him hang himself with his own rope. I told her everything. The emotional pressure, the cheating, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the explicit messages, the Tinder profile, even the plan I'd cooked up to act like the poor blindsided wife who had no idea what her husband was doing behind her back. She didn't blink. Just asked for the screenshots. Told me to keep records. Said I was doing everything right. So that's what I've been doing. Every time he shows me a message or flashes a flirty text he got from some woman on an app, I smile. I nod. I tell him he deserves to feel wanted. And I save the messages. I forward them to a hidden email I made just for my legal case. I screenshot everything. I even caught him texting that same coworker again, the one with the butterfly tattoo on her back. I added it to the folder. Proof is power, and I'm collecting mine with quiet precision. No one else knows. Not my parents. Not his. Not our friends. To the outside world, I'm just a wife finally learning to let go and adapt. But inside, I'm done. I'm gone. And there is no changing my mind. He thinks he's winning. But the day he gets those papers, that's the day the real truth will come out. Let him post selfies with women half his age. Let him play the role of the charming married man who's just figuring things out. I hope he enjoys every second of this newfound freedom he begged me for. Because soon he'll be using it alone. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it for peace. For dignity. For my kids. For myself.